I want to solve this. Now, before we solve it, I want to make it look like this problem right here. So we get the ln by itself. But there's two of them here. But can we condense these? If they're both ln, can you condense them? What does a plus mean in condensing? Multiply. So what you want to realize is you can rewrite this as, inside the parentheses, it's an n, not an x, sorry, n plus 5 times n minus 5. Let's make that an n. Okay? Make that an n. Now, what we now have is that equals 0. So you have n plus 5, n minus 5. I could bring them together because of the plus inside. Now if I want to solve this, what you're going to do here is you want to change this to an exponent. Meaning, I want to change this in exponent, so you know that's base e, so it's going to be e to the, and don't you switch these two? E to the 0 equals n plus 5, n minus 5. Again, you write e in front because that's the base, and you switch the 0 and this binomial times a binomial. Anyways, what's e to the 0? E to the 0 is 1. Now, I'm going to FOIL this. You'll see why, because I can't solve it otherwise. This is going to be n squared minus 25. Because if this equaled 0, could we have solved it? Yeah, if it equals 0, but it doesn't. It equals 1. So how would we solve this one? You could do factoring, but actually what I would do is I'd add the 25 over. So I now have n squared equals 26. Now, how do you get rid of a square root? How do you get rid of a square? You square root. So I could square root both sides. So n equals plus or minus the square root of 26. Does 26 reduce? Is there a square number in 26? No, all 26 has is 2 and 13, and neither of those break down to square numbers. So those are your answers. Positive and negative square root 26. The problem is, are either of those extraneous? Do either of those create a negative inside the natural log? Now, look at this one right here. Don't look at this. See how it has two different natural logs? Look, focus in on this one, where it has one natural log. When you plug in a negative here, would that be negative if I plug in this negative value? Isn't that a little bit, what's the square root of 25? 5. Isn't this probably somewhere around positive and negative 5.1? So if I plug in a positive 5 here and here, 5.1, would this be a positive inside? Sorry. If I put a positive 5.1 here and a 5.1 there, will this be positive? Yeah. But what if I put a negative, what, 5.1? What happens when I put a negative here? What's that going to be? A negative here, won't that be negative? Won't this also be negative? What's a negative times a negative? Positive. So both answers work. Now, both answers work, but both answers work. So, but the problem is, do both answers work up here? For this one, does it work? Does the negative work there? The negatives don't work here, but it does work here, because when you condense them, this is what you want to look at. You don't want to look at the two separate pieces. You want to look at the condensed piece, plug in the negative 5.1 into the condensed piece, and see if it still works or not.